Hello everyone. Today we are diving into something we all experience. How to boost our motivation when we just don't feel like doing anything. We've all been there, that heavy, sluggish feeling of procrastination. Like something invisible is holding us back, keeping us stuck in place. It's that pull toward staying passive, avoiding action, and putting things off for later. But here's the thing, motivation isn't about waiting for the right moment. It's about knowing how to break free from that resistance and create momentum when we need it most. And that's exactly what we are going to explore today. Have you found yourself telling, I really don't feel like doing this task, or you know what, I'll just put on Netflix instead? We've all been there. Feeling unmotivated, drained, or just completely lacking the energy to start something we know we should do. But here's the thing, motivation doesn't just magically show up. It's not something you wait for, it's something you create. And that's exactly what we are going to explore in this program. Because sometimes we just don't feel like doing anything. The moment we think about a task, we start procrastinating. Suddenly scrolling Instagram seems way more appealing. Or maybe we just get this random urge to do literally anything else. Cleaning the kitchen, reorganizing shelf, text a friend, anything. Sounds familiar? Now think about yourself for a moment. Grab a pen and paper, your journal preferably, and write it down. What is one task you've been putting off recently? Take a second and write it down. Great job. Now that we've identified what we are putting off, let's dig a little deeper. Why are we avoiding it? Maybe it's something like doing our personal projects, paperwork and business stuff, and we know it needs to get done, but it feels overwhelming, so we put it off. Or maybe it's something bigger, like starting that 30-day yoga challenge we've been meaning to do. Now it's easy to say, well, maybe I just don't like yoga. Maybe that's true. Maybe you'd rather do boxing or weight training, but what if there is something else going on? What if the real reason we're avoiding it is because making a change feels uncomfortable? Maybe starting yoga means committing to taking care of your body, which could mean changing your diet, adjusting your routine, or facing the way we see yourselves in the mirror. Or maybe it's not yoga at all, maybe it's something else, maybe like something like signing up for that online course you keep thinking about. Learning to code, taking a writing class, going back to school. You want to do it, but for some reason, you keep putting it off. So what's really stopping you? Could there be something deeper holding you back? Maybe what we are really afraid of isn't the task itself, but what happens if we fail. Maybe we don't want to be that person who announces their big new challenge to friends only to quit a few weeks later. Or maybe we've been staring at that essay deadline, knowing we should submit something, but we still haven't pressed send. And if we really think about it, why? Maybe deep down, we are worried that our work isn't good enough, that someone will read it and confirm the nagging doubt we already have. What if I'm just not that talented? Or maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe we're putting off starting the new side project, learning a new skill, or stepping into a different career path. Not because we don't want it, but because we are scared of what happens if we go all in and it doesn't work out. So take a second, look at the task you wrote down earlier and write it in your journal. Is there a hidden fear attached to it? Could it be that the real reason you are avoiding it isn't about time or motivation, but about self-doubt? If so, recognize that, because that's a huge step forward. It's not always easy to be honest with ourselves about what's holding us back. Take a moment and reflect and write it down. So well done for taking this moment of reflection. Now, let's shift our focus. Instead of thinking about what could go wrong, let's imagine how it would feel if we actually follow through. How would it feel to finally take that step, to prove to yourself that you are capable, to know that you did it? Imagine for a moment you actually did it. You faced the fear, pushed through the doubt, and finished the task you've been putting off. How would that feel? Maybe you'd feel proud for taking action. Maybe you would feel lighter, relieved, or even accomplished. Whatever it is, just take a second to picture that feeling. Visualize. Because sometimes visualization of success is the first step toward making it happen. If we know completing the task will feel great, it doesn't always make starting any easier. We tell ourselves we're just waiting for motivation. Well, here's the thing. Motivation doesn't usually come first. In fact, motivation works backward from what we expect. And what it means is, it often shows up after we start, not before. That's because motivation isn't what gets us moving, it's the result of movement. Think about it. We feel motivated when we make progress, when we accomplish something. No matter how small, we get a sense of reward. And that sense of reward is what pushes us to keep going. So if starting is the hardest part, how do we trick our brain into getting past that first hurdle? That's where a simple strategy comes in. Something we call recharge and restore. It's a way to jumpstart motivation by starting with small, achievable tasks. Instead of waiting to feel ready, we create momentum ourselves, and that's exactly what we are going to do next. Before we dive in, let's take a moment to reset. Take a slow, deep breath through your nose and gently exhale through your mouth. A deep breath in and longer exhale out through your mouth. Now let's get started. There are 3 simple steps to breaking through procrastination. First, we decide on something we want to get done. Second, we break it down into smaller, doable steps. Third, we choose a specific time to start the first step. Simple, right? Let's start with step 1. What's something you've been putting off? Maybe you've been meaning to apply for an internship, redecorating your space, or finally go on that hike you keep talking about. Whatever it is, try to choose something that feels a little challenging but is still within reach. Now, if this task has been sitting on your to-do list for a while, there's probably a reason. Maybe it feels too big, too overwhelming, but you're not sure where to start. That's completely understandable. And that's exactly why step 2 is so important. Instead of looking at the whole task as one giant mountain to climb, we're going to shrink it down into smaller, manageable steps. For example, if your goal is to go on a hike, your first step isn't actually hiking. It's something simple like researching a few trails that you might enjoy. Just one small step to get the momentum going. Let's go one step further. What comes next? Let's say you've decided to go on that hike. Now that you research a few trails, your next step might be planning your route, figuring out how long the hike will take and what you will need. Then maybe you will check your gear, dig out your hiking boots, make sure your backpack is ready, and see if you need to grab anything from the store. Or maybe your goal is to paint your bedroom walls. So your first step could be something as simple as picking a few color samples. Then once you've got the color, the next task might be testing them on the wall to see how they look in different lighting. After that, you might move to clearing the room, shifting furniture away from the walls, getting your supplies ready, and before you know it, you're actually painting. And here's the key. Each of these steps should feel small enough to actually do. When a task feels manageable, we're way more likely to take action. And when we start making progress, we build momentum. So now, think about your own goal. What are the smallest steps you can break it into? Write them down. Don't overthink it. Just get the ideas flowing. Now, for the final step, actually deciding when to start. Because let's be honest, if we don't set a time, we will keep putting it off. We will tell ourselves, I'll do it later, and suddenly later turns into next week, next month, or never. But here's the good news. We don't have to start right this second. It's okay to plan ahead, but the key is to be specific. Instead of saying, I'll get to it soon, try, I will start tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Or something like, I'll tackle it Saturday afternoon after lunch. Or I'll take the first step tonight before bed. The more clear and concrete you make your plan, the more likely you are to follow through. So, when would be a good time for you to start your first small task you identified earlier? Take a moment and choose a time. And now, just check in with yourself for a second. How do you feel? Maybe you're feeling a little bit more motivated. Maybe you still feel some hesitation, and that's totally okay too. Just remember this, you don't have to wait for motivation to show up. It grows when you take action. Even the smallest step forward creates momentum. And that momentum, that's how real change happens. Before we wrap up, let's take a moment to reset and center ourselves. Take a slow, deep breath in through your nose and gently exhale through your mouth. Now, close your eyes for a second and just feel the breath moving through your body. Let your soul relax. Feel the rhythm of your breath. Slow, steady, flowing effortlessly in and out. Come back to yourself, to your center, to the foundation that keeps you grounded. Let everything you've done today sink in. Every step forward, every small action, it all counts. We all have moments of feeling unmotivated. Some days, just getting started feels impossible. It's so much easier to switch on Netflix, scroll through your phone, or take a nap instead. But the moment you take action, everything shifts. That's first step. That first step, no matter how small, sparks something inside you. A sense of progress, a sense of accomplishment. And once you feel that, motivation begins to grow. Momentum builds. Things start to feel easier. Each task you complete fuels the next. Each small win leads you forward. You start hitting your goals. You start feeling more in control. You start creating a life that feels like yours. Because motivation isn't something you wait for. It's something you create. One step at a time. One choice at a time. Until suddenly, you're doing the things you once put off. You're becoming the person you want to be. You're living the life you want to live. So just stay here for a moment, breathing in. Let this feeling settle in. And when you are ready, open your eyes. You've done great work today. And in the coming days, if you ever catch yourself procrastinating, mindlessly scrolling Instagram, avoiding that one task, or telling yourself, I'll do it later, pause, come back to this moment. Remind yourself that you have a choice to take one small step forward, a choice to break things down into something manageable, a choice to actually start instead of waiting for motivation to find you. And as you do this, as you check off one small, doable task at a time, you will notice something shift. Your motivation will start to grow. Your confidence will build. And step by step, you will become the person you're working toward becoming. You're already on your way. Amazing work today. See you back here soon.